Viel Spaß. Ja, im kleinen Horrorladen mit den neuesten Filmen. Mit den neuesten Filmen.
What if you couldn't remember your real name, your first kiss, or your last goodbye?
I don't remember.
Honey, you have an ETA on that carrot?
Stow it.
And then suddenly,
I used to do this. I'm a chef. Yo!
without warning,
Give me something else.
Celery! Scallions!
all your memories
Name's Charlie. I'm coming back.
came flooding back to you.
Evening, Charlie. Long time.
One bullet at a time.
I got movement on Samantha Kane.
You're kidding.
I may have a lead on someone. May still have some of her stuff.
This man is going to help me find some things out, so we'll be safe.
Your full name is Charlene Elizabeth Baltimore. This could be trouble.
My name is Samantha Kane.
No, forget all that.
I'm in the PTA.
Then quit! You're an assassin working for the United States government.
We have 24 hours. We find her, and we kill her.
Run for your life!
Charlie Baltimore's alive, sir.
Who are you?
Name's Charlie. The spy.
Back when we first met, you were all like, oh, fool, I burned the darn muffins. Now, you go into a bar, 10 minutes later, sailors come running out. What up with that?
This fall,
Honk if there's any trouble.
Yeah, so Miss Daisy, I'd be honking.
if you have plans for a calm, quiet evening,
Cover your ears. Hey, should we get a dog?
it's time to kiss them all. Good night. Gina Davis, Samuel L. Jackson, The Long Kiss. Good night.
Well, welcome, Renny Harlin.
Thank you.
Thanks again that you have time for doing this interview.
My pleasure.
I started with the first question. In 1988, you have made this fantastic movie, Prison.
Yes, well, thank you for calling it fantastic.
It's fantastic. I think it's my opinion. For me, like I said, it's a great movie with great effects. I think without CGI, it's everything handmade.
Yeah. Prison was my first movie, and it was a really scary experience for me because it was the first time I was making an American movie, working in the American system, having come from Finland, where movie crew has maybe 15 people, and now there's 100 people, and I don't even know what they do. And we had a very small budget. We had about $1 million, but the movie has lots of action and horror and special effects and things, and it was really done like in a homemade way, you know, using rubber bands and sticks and little glue and chewing gum and putting it together and creating something, really sitting around and saying like, okay, how do we make this thing happen and without it costing anything. And of course, this was before CGI and all those things, so it's all real.
Great. There is one scene in this movie I really like. Maybe you remember, I think so, yeah, because there is a scene where the prison director is sitting on his chair and then he gets bound and up to the roof.
Yes, this was a sequence that we just came up with the idea, and then we said, well, how are we going to do this? And we sit around, and then somebody said, well, what if we took like phone cables and painted them silver or metal so that they look like metal and made them look like it's barbed wire, and then maybe we wrap it around his leg or his head, and then we pull it away and we shoot it backwards, so it's going to look like it goes around it. That's a great idea, let's do that. And then we discovered if you wrap it around too much and you pull, you're actually pulling his head because it gets stuck. But if you just wrap it around just a little bit, then you can still pull it out. and then we say, okay, and then we want him to fly through the air and into this other room. And well, how are we going to do that? Well, we have to build that room, but obviously we have to build the room high enough so that the chair can go under it, and then we're going to pull it with ropes and all these things. And it was just a matter of people with nothing to lose, trying to prove themselves, doing something together, and coming up with solutions to these problems, and trying to make impressive scenes without money.
Very cool. Okay, and in the same year you have done the fourth part of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
Also great. How did you get the chance to do this?
That was a miracle. I was a big fan of the Nightmare series, and I went to the producers and with my movie Prison and showed it to them and said, I'm your man. Of course, for this studio, Nightmare at that point was their biggest franchise, and they wanted somebody experienced and so on. And they said, why would we hire this kid from Finland who was, 28 years old? And why would we hire him? And I said, because I'm the right man for this. I've had nightmares all my life, and I have crazy imagination, and I'll make it amazing. And I went there 5 times without them inviting me. I just walked into their office and said, hey, I'm back, I have more great ideas. And 5 times they threw me out of their office. But then a lucky turn of events happened, which was that the writers in Hollywood went on strike. So every writer was forbidden from working, and they didn't have a screenplay yet for Nightmare, and but they needed to go into production because they wanted the movie to come out later on that year. So now they have a production schedule. They don't have a director, they don't have a writer, and they don't have a screenplay, but they have me, the secret weapon.
And but the fourth part was very successful. And did they ask you to do the fifth one, or?
No, actually, to be honest, when the movie was so successful, the world kind of opened up for me overnight. Until that point, I didn't have any money, I didn't have credit cards, I was living in a little motel. Life was very, very hard, and I couldn't even get an agent, I couldn't get any job offers anywhere. But when the movie became so successful, all of a sudden, Steven Spielberg and everybody else was calling me and offering me movies, and so I went from Nightmare was made in an independent film world where $5 million was a lot of money, and all of a sudden I was being offered movies that were 10 times bigger. So it's just my whole world changed so much that it wasn't even. It honestly wasn't even an option that I would want to do another Nightmare, because all of a sudden I had so many opportunities to try to tell different kinds of stories, and so I became very good friends, and I still today I'm the producer of Nightmare series is one of my best friends, but and we did work on something else together later on, but we never talked about during the Nightmare. Actually, to be completely honest, when they did this reboot of Nightmare just a year or two ago, yeah, that would have been, I wish that they had, but it was completely different producers at that point, but I wish they had approached me with that, because I still think that I know the series and the characters so well that I would have had a lot of new ideas to offer.
Do you like the remake?
I didn't go to see it. I just out of principle, I didn't want to see it.
Okay, I can understand. Well then, Die Hard 2, I love it. I've seen this movie when I was a little bit younger, as a teenager.
Yeah, I was a little bit younger too.
And I loved it. It was also such a great movie.
Hinter diesen Mauern lauert es.
Changa sagt mir, dass ein Kahn herumgeht, ein böser Geist.
Und es lässt jedem das Blut in den Adern gefrieren.
Was hat mich gepackt?
Es gibt etwas, was sich nicht begraben lässt.
Es ist das Böse.
Ich rufe die Kreatur der Finsternis.
Es ist das Unfassbare.
Wollt ihr mich verrecken lassen?
Das Grauen aus einer anderen Dimension, das sie erblickt.
Zeige dich mir, Changa!
Es ist gekommen, um zu richten. Und es gibt kein Entrinnen.
Ein angenehmer Ort, um sein Leben zu verbringen, nicht wahr, Miss Walker?
Prison.
Story of my life.
Motor cells maybe 2 hours. After that, those planes low on fuel aren't going to be circling. They're going to be dropping on the White House lawn.
Any attempt to restore your systems will be met by severe penalties.
Somebody out there.
It's the plane!
Blow it up! Wife's plane, they're going to run out of fuel in 90 minutes.
What are you gonna do?
Whatever I can.
Last time, it flew you through the back wall of the theater.
Not a cowboy ride too rough?
I don't like to fly.
What are you doing here?
I don't like to lose either.
This time, it'll blow you sky high.
That's what you expected?
No. This is just the beginning.
On July 4th, Die Harder. Bruce Willis, Die Hard 2.
If you look now, the fourth part and the fifth part of Die Hard.
To be honest, I didn't go to see the last one because a lot of people told me that it was really disappointing, and I didn't want to see it. I saw the one before that, the fourth one, and to be completely honest, what I felt was a problem with that was that it went too far, and Bruce Willis's character became a superhero, and I think that what always separated Die Hard from other action movies and franchises was that Bruce Willis was an everyman, and he still does some pretty amazing things, but he still was just a guy who would be having a beer with you in a bar, and that was to me the heart of the movie and the charm of the movie. And I felt with the fourth one, it's just things when it's not always better. The bigger the action is, it's the heart that the movie needs to have instead of just ginormous things.
Yes.
So I felt like it started going a little too big.
I totally agree with you. There is also one scene I'm really interested how you've done it. This scene when he's into the plane and the bad guys stay around and pull the bombs into and to put the eject and.
Well, this was I worked very closely with Steve D'Souza, who was the writer, and I always said that the biggest problem with Steve was that he would come up with a lot of ideas, but then he didn't really know how to get out of those situations. And one of them was that he wrote the scene that, okay, Bruce goes into this plane and the bad guys surround him and almost kill him, but then he gets away. And I'm like, well, how does he get away? And he was like, well, he just, uses the back door of the plane and then he runs across the tarmac and he gets away. I'm like, well, doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's 10 bad guys and they have hand grenades and machine guns and everything. It's like if the bad guys are not competent, then they are not even scary. So of course they will kill him if he's trapped in the plane. And he's like, well, but he just runs really fast or something like that. And I'm like, well, we have to come up with something else. Either we don't use the scene at all, or we have to come up with something else. And then I was racking my brain, and then I thought, oh my God, I have the greatest idea. What if there's an ejection seat? I remember when I told him and I told Joel Silver, the producer, there's an ejection seat and he's going to strap himself in and the ticking bomb is there and is he going to get out? And then he flies out. And first thing that somebody said was like, but cargo planes don't have ejection seats. I said, but the audience doesn't know that. Who knows? This was before the internet, it's like you can't check these things out. How many people know that the cargo plane couldn't have an ejection seat? And then we